Hi, class. Welcome to Monday's reading lesson. And this week, our story of the week is called Rosie Revere. So, you should have listened to that right before this. And now let's get started. So, our goal today for our mini lesson, we're going to be talking about this a couple days this week and then a couple other things. But today, we're really focusing on identifying. Remember, that's a fancy word. Identify means look and find. Identifying the lesson of a story. That's our learning target. That means our main goal. So repeat after me. I can identify. There we go. The lesson of a story. Very good. That's our goal. And of course, as always, this is what we're really focusing on at the end of second grade. This is how we're going to reach our goal, our success criteria right here. I am successful when, very good, I use text evidence, your turn, fabulous, to prove my answers, your turn. Beautiful. So now you know our end goal and how we're going to get there. Remember, you got to be a text detective. Go back to the text and find proof to prove your answer so we know that you're not just making it up. You have proof from the text, the story. So that's what we're doing today. Today we're going to do some sample. I'm going to read you two different stories, short little mini stories. You're going to help me find the lesson of these stories, and that's our practice. And then you're going to write down the lesson you learned from our main story of the week. But first, you might need to be refreshed on what's a lesson of a story. We've been talking about this all year. Every time I read a story out loud, remember how I always say, every story teaches us a lesson. Today, we're going to dig deeper on that and know all the steps on how do we find the lesson. So what if this is the question? What is a lesson? Well, the lesson of a story is what the story is teaching us. What are we learning from the story? So every story teaches us something, okay? And other things you might have heard it called, and when you're older too, mainly, is the central message. So maybe sometimes you'll hear there'll be a question on a test or someone will say, what was the central message of the story? That's just a fancier way to say, what was the lesson of the story? What did you learn? And another way to say it is the moral. So you might have heard someone say, moral of the story is, the lesson I learned is, okay? So here are a few examples of some a lot of popular lessons that a lot of different stories can teach us. And remember, I always say too, sometimes stories teach us more than one lesson, but there's always one main lesson. So here are some samples. Do your best, be nice to others, or that's the same thing as be kind. At our school, especially in our classroom, we read a lot of books out loud where the lesson was to be kind. Another lesson, tell the truth. We've read books like that where the lesson was that too. Never give up. That means have a growth mindset. Be a friend. Be brave. Okay? So now I'm going to read you two different stories and we're going to find out what the lesson is. But first you're like, but wait, Miss Peterson, how? What are we going to use? Well, let me show you. I put on our fabulous wall over here. Everybody say, ooh, ah. Okay, so to help us get details and focus on the story to learn the lesson, we need to know certain things about the story, okay? Not the unimportant details. These are the main important key details we need to know about the story, and knowing all of these things will help us identify the lesson, which is our goal. So first, after we read and listen to the story, we need to identify who were the characters, the main characters. Okay. The next thing, after we figure that out, we need to figure out what was the setting of the story. And remember, the setting is when and where the story takes place. So the when is really important. That's the one people forget. They say, oh, it took place on the playground. But when? Was it the past, a long time ago? The present? That's a fancy way to say it's happening now. So if I told you a story about something that happened today, that'd be the present. It's happening now. Or did the story take place in the future? That means it didn't happen yet. So some stories do. So you need to, for the setting, you need to know when, so past, present, or future, and where. Was it outside? Was it in someone's room? Was it at the park? Where and when, okay? The next three things are what we've also been working on all year when we do our retells. So when we retell a story or tell the summary of a story, you need to know key things, key details that happen in the beginning, middle, and end. And it doesn't have to be a giant paragraph for each thing, especially for the sample I'm going to read you because the story I'm reading is really short, okay? It just needs to be a couple key details. So 1 to 3 key things that happen in the beginning, middle, and end. And remember, key details are details that are important to the story that without them, the story wouldn't make sense. So those are the key details, and I will show you what I mean after I read you the short story. So I'm going to read you the short story now, the first one, and we're going to fill this out together. And after we fill out our key details, we're going to get all our information together and let that help us identify what lesson we learned, because every story teaches us a lesson. So let me get the first story. Story 1. I told you it's a short story. Here we go. Danny saw his friends playing on the classroom iPad. He knew he wanted a turn, so he decided to tell the boys that the teacher said it was his turn. Also, he told a lie. The boys felt sad, but they still gave Danny the iPad. The entire time Danny played on the iPad, he felt guilty for telling a lie. He went to the other boys and gave them the iPad and told them he was sorry for not being honest. The end. So this story taught us a lesson, and before you blurt it out, don't blurt it out. We got to go through the steps of how you identify the lesson. We got to figure out the key details. So first, step 1, we need to figure out who were the main characters. Now, before I just put it up there right now, you can say it out loud or write it down. Right now, who were the main characters in this short story? Go. Good. Okay. So I hope all of you said the main characters in this short story. Sometimes stories have more, especially if they're longer. But this story, the main characters were Danny, of course. He's the main character. That's who the story is mostly about. Danny's friends and the teacher. And the story didn't talk about anyone else. So I'm going to tape that up there. Boop. Okay, so check, we got the characters. Next is the setting. Remember, the setting is when, past, present, or future, and where the story takes place. So right now, you can pause it or quick say out loud or write it down. What was the setting of this short story, this text? And do you notice while you're thinking that, I just got to point something out. Do you notice how we are being text-detectives right now? We are doing our success criteria. We are using evidence from the story. clues from the story to help us come up with our answers. We are on the right track. Okay, right now you should be saying or writing down what the setting of the short story was. Okay, very good. And you should have said or written down, it's happening now. So that's in the present. It wasn't taking place a long time ago, and it wasn't the future, because this is something realistic that could happen now in our classrooms now if we were at school. So I put present and in the classroom. So I got when and where. Bam. And then I'm going to use tape actually. We're going to tape it under setting. We're one step closer to finding the lesson of the story. Bam. Now we need to identify, since this was a short story, we're just going to identify one important key detail that happened in the beginning, middle, and end. And like I said earlier, longer stories, you would need probably 3 key details that happen in the beginning, middle, and end. But this is a short story. So right now, brainstorm. That means think in your head at least one important key detail that happened in the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, go. So you're saying it out loud or you're writing it down using your text evidence. Very good. 5, 4, get ready. 3, 2, and Miss Peterson's almost ready. Got my tape ready. And 1. Okay, you should have said a key detail for beginning, middle, and end, and it should be something like this. So for the beginning, I thought the most important detail that happened in the beginning was Danny wanted to play on the iPad. That's why this whole story even started. He was like, hey, I want to play on the iPad. So that's the key detail that happened in the beginning. Okay. Next, in the middle of the short story, the most important thing that happened was that Danny lied to his friends. He said he lied, remember? He said, the teacher said it's my turn, but she never said that, so he lied to his friends. That was the most important detail that happened in the middle. And now at the end, you should have said something like, the most important detail that happened at the end was Danny actually felt guilty and he apologized to his friends. So that he made it better. He felt guilty and he apologized. That's the most important detail, key detail that happened at the end. Fabulous. Are we done yet? Nope, almost. Because our goal was to identify the lesson that this story taught us. And we now, though, check, we got all of our key details. We can use all of these to help us learn the lesson. So let's go over what we got. We got the characters, Danny, Danny's friends, and the teacher. The setting was the present and the classroom. And in the beginning, he wanted to play an iPad. So he told a lie in the middle to his friends to get the iPad from them. He played with it a little bit. Then at the end, the most important thing that happened was he felt guilty, so he apologized. So all of these things put together can teach us a lesson so we can learn from Danny's actions. So knowing when the setting was important, because this is a lesson we can learn, something that could have happened in real life nowadays. And he sounded kind of like a second grader, so we can also make a connection. That's why we need to know the characters. And at the end, he ended up doing the right thing, which was apologizing. So the lesson that we can learn from this story, what do you think? Use all of these details to help you. Right now, brainstorm think in your head, and then I'll share with you what I thought the lesson was, and you can see if you were close to Miss Peterson's. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, fabulous. You should have wrote down or just thought in your head or said it out loud the lesson, and I think we all should know this because we've also read books similar to this in class. That's also called making a text-to-text connection, because if we read a book similar to this. Another reading strategy. But anyways, the lesson we should have all learned from this story was do not lie. Right now, thumbs up if you agree with Miss Peterson. And I'm just imagining all of you having your thumbs up because you guys are all awesome. Yes, I think that's the lesson we all learned. Do not tell a lie. It's better to always tell the truth. And this book, this text, helped us identify that lesson. So I'm going to put them in the middle. Bam! All of these key details helped us figure out the lesson was do not tell a lie. Okay, so we reached our end goal. We identified the lesson of the story. Say check. And let's check in. Did we use our text, evidence, and proof from the story to help us? Yes. So we also did our success criteria. These are all proof and details from the story that helped us. So this was using our success criteria to reach our end goal. We learned that it was to not tell a lie. So right now, you can re-listen to our weekly story on the link, and then this was in our Monday file of work. This little sheet at the top, it says learning a lesson. So what you're going to do is you can re-listen to this story. If you did listen to it already, you maybe need to be refreshed. Or if you didn't, go listen to it. It's Rosie Revere. Then you write the title at the top. Then right here it says, what is the lesson of the story? And you have to have proof, our success criteria. What events in the story help teach the character the lesson? So you're going to do exactly what we did together. You're going to identify the main characters, the setting, when and where the story took place, the key event that happened in the beginning of Rosie Revere, the middle, and the end. And you're going to use all of this text evidence, you're being a text detective, to prove what lesson the story taught you. And you're going to write it all down with complete sentences, nice, neat, third grade ready handwriting, capitals. Remember, start with capitals, have ending punctuation. So, and remember, it's okay if you don't have a printer, just look at this on your screen and copy it down onto a blank piece of paper. So, you are using what we learned here, listening to the story again if you need to, and then completing the sheet about the lesson. And that's your job for reading today. Sounds good? You should have said, sounds great, like we do in class. Love it. Okay, so that's for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So this one took a little longer, so we're going to, like I said, we're going to do the other mini story and find the lesson mañana. I'll see you tomorrow, Tuesday. Have fun doing your work. Bye.